You're listening to PDR Tool Talk, all about PDR stories, tools, and techniques.
For the thousands in attendance, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Mike Toledo, along with Vince D'Alessandro, Daniel Grom, and John Hiley, who is not here with us. Unfortunately, we wish he was, because this is episode 75. What's up with
75.
that? Yeah, baby. We finally made it, man. 75 episodes. Boy, it went fast, huh?
You know, for 100, we're going to have to do like a 24-hour marathon.
Yes, everyone will have to listen to us for 24 hours straight.
Yeah, I think.
That'd be epic.
Hey, man, this is a great episode, man. We got, you know what, we've been talking about these episodes. At least I think that we're going the right direction. We're going to try to talk about more techniques along with the tools that we're talking about. And
Right?
Yeah, today's episode.
That's some knowledge.
Yeah, a lot of knowledge bombs, and this one's going to be about creases and body lines and things like that. So, what do you guys think?
I think that's good.
Yeah, I think, you know what? I think that is a perfect subject that is going to have a lot of growth in the next year or so. And it all stemmed from MTE this year when we saw Steinleiner with their tools and some of their techniques. And they came out with some really unusual tools this year. And it was something that was kind of unknown, but we can get into that a little bit later on. But first, before we do that, we're going to hand it off to Vince and start off with
Old news. Yes. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. And if you haven't tuned into last episode, which would be episode 74, John and Daniel and myself had a great hour-long conversation about insurance adjusters and how to deal with insurance adjusters doing hail damage. And now, you know, a lot of us have our retail locations, and we had a lot of helpful hints and information as to how to deal with them as well.
John was on fire, dude.
He was lighting it up.
Yeah, and I learned tons and tons of stuff from him that episode.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great episode. So if you did miss that episode, it's right there on our PDR tooltimerevolution.com. You get on there, pdrtooltime.com, and listen to it, download it, comment on it, let us know that we're doing well. And if we miss anything, make sure you put something up there to and for our listening audience. And
wasn't our stance like through the roof?
It was. It's one of our highest downloads that we've had. So
I think it actually beat out Paul Corden.
I think it did. So we might get our own. We might get our own plaque this time.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking of plaque, we're going to have to start working on that. You know, our convention's right around the corner. We're halfway through the year already.
Yeah, it is. Well, we've got something to announce sometime in the near future as well. I think by the next podcast, but we will talk about that. We'll bring that up later. So, how was
some of the new news?
Oh, new news. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna ask you.
This podcast is going to air pretty much immediately, and there is a stolen trailer out there that has been stolen out of Kansas City. It's a big black trailer. It says Kansas City Dent and Tint on it. So if you see it, there's a $20,000 ransom on it.
Now, whose trailer was that, and who was involved with that?
I believe it was Keith Starling was the owner of the trailer, and it had 6 other Dent Tech's tools in it, which probably equaled at least $250,000 worth of tools. It had 40 key fobs for the cars that they were working on at the location. And, that's devastating. I know for myself, I had a trailer stolen 2.5 years ago with $30,000 worth of equipment in it. And it damn near took the life out of me.
Wow.
You know, it's either, okay, let's think about this. Okay. either they're stealing it for the trailer, but you were telling me earlier, Vince, that trailers are pretty cheap. They're not that expensive.
They're not that expensive, no.
And or it's another dent guy, or it's some idiot that thinks there's automotive tools in there and they're valuable and stuff. Because once they open that thing up and they're like, what the hell is all this shit? They're going to go like, how do we sell this stuff? And as soon as you start selling that stuff, there's a million dent guys out there on the hunt. They're going to figure it out and turn these guys in.
I think it's probably somebody who knows what it is, because why would you go through all the trouble of stealing something that you don't know what it is?
A competitor, maybe?
Hope not. But yeah, that's pretty bad. Really bad.
That could be big, man.
And I've heard this happening before too. So I mean, maybe it's something to think about. If you guys got something similar to that, you might want to think about hiring a security guard or something, just for that.
No, it's simple. One simple thing will solve this.
What, a lock
situation.
around it?
No, tracker.
Oh,
Track R.
Yeah.
It's a little dime. It looks like a size of a quarter, and you can buy 10 of them or 12 of them for $120. I have one in my wallet. I have one on my keys. I have one in my truck. I have one on my daughter, my son. And what's cool about this is anybody that has the tracker app. So if somebody steals this trailer and they go to Mexico, there's millions or thousands of people that have the tracker app. And as soon as it goes by their app, it pings it and sends it to the owner and notifies them.
Huh. That's a good idea. So
It's kind of like the tile.
Yeah.
But way more powerful.
The tracker is a little bit better because it's more social base, and you can put a new battery in the tracker. The tile, once the battery goes dead, you have to throw it away.
Oh.
Sure. Now, here's the other thing that people don't realize about those trackers. I don't know about Tracker, the one that you're talking about, but I know Tile. Even with Tile, it pings the cell towers. So say, for example, you're in Kansas City, or you're in the middle of, cornfields in Kansas. Not a lot of people have their tracker app that you're talking about, Daniel. But when you have a Tile, it's actually pinging the cell towers. So as it crosses cell towers, it's letting it know where the last location was. So that's one thing a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, either of those. I mean, Tile or Tracker, and they're cheap, cheerful, and you know exactly where that item would be.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I got too, for when I had our trailer stolen, we didn't go back to a trailer. We ended up getting a Sprinter van. We learned our lesson really quick. Mm-hmm. But what we invested in was Spot On, which is another GPS tracker that you get at REI or boat companies, West Marine, things like that. They're $100. I believe it's $100 subscription for the year, and it doesn't have to be powered. It could be powered off of batteries as well. And all you have to do is put it somewhere on your trailer or on your truck, and you'll always know where it is.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for letting me know, because I'm gonna put one on my trailer.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think everybody should have that on there.
There's a bunch of sticky fingers in the world, and you never think it's going to happen to you.
And it sucks when it does, right?
Yeah. You got 7 guys out of work for, at least a couple days until they get some tools going.
Jeez. Well, best of luck to them. So I heard there's people out there going out of their way, helping these individuals get some tools. And I think Craig from Anson's one of them, right? I just saw a post of that.
He drove 10 hours all the way from Texas up there with a whole bunch of tools for them to get going.
And John sent us a post of it. I guess it's taken down, but we're just passing the message, man. But it looked like Maria went out to meet these guys, and unfortunately she couldn't find them, but they're probably looking for the trailer, I'm assuming. So, but it's not there, or the post isn't there.
One of the gentlemen, I saw him post, they did get the media involved. So there was newscasters there. So they might have been doing some media, getting the word out there,
Coverage.
trying to get it media coverage.
Dude, we got the dent army out there searching for this thing, man. We're gonna catch these guys.
I think they'll find it. I don't know if they'll. Hopefully they
Find
find
the
it with all
tools.
this
They're
stuff.
probably gonna pull it into a warehouse, put a paint job on it, or peel the stickers off, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's too bad either way.
Yeah.
Horrible
Well, I
thing.
hope they get it found, and hope they get their tools back. I really do. I'm not sure if they will, but hopefully they do. Good thoughts. Good thoughts.
Now here's
Yeah,
another thing.
Yeah.
It seems like Rodney Friedman is just the most unfortunate, unlucky guy in the world. I'm not sure if I'll ever go on a hail gig with that dude.
Why? What's happened to him? Before?
Everything happens to him.
Really?
It seems like he's got a dark cloud following him around.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah, you know what? Things come in threes. I'm sure that he's due up. So he's due up.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So give him some love, give him some shout
well,
out. Anything you guys can do.
Well, he's got Woody though. Woody's a freaking like he's a spirit like riser. You know what I mean? He always gets people up and running. So
Yeah. Well, Woody had his own health issues a couple months ago, so hopefully this doesn't add too much stress level to him and throw him over the deep end.
yeah.
Right.
All right. So we
Nothing
gonna
but love for you guys out there, and support these guys and help them out if you can. If you know these guys, and keep your eyes out. All right.
Yeah,
let's
and
move
they're
on.
not really looking for handouts either. They're hail technicians that are making a ton of money. They were just looking for tools right away to keep them going.
to keep that money going. So okay. All right. So what's cracking next? Are we getting into the topics here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about creases, and we want to talk about body lines. So let's start with creases, Mike. What do you do? What is your approach to a crease? And I know there's different levels of a crease. So you have sharp crease and you have dull creases. And how do you approach a crease?
Okay. Rule number one. First of all, if it's longer than, let's say a 4-inch crease, I will split that crease up in half. And the reason why I do that is to keep myself disciplined and keep the dent clean. So I will do the first half of the crease and will not go past that other 3 or 4 inches, go to the 3rd or 4th inch or 5th inch or whatever. I will, here's how I teach my students too. I'll put a piece of tape over a good portion of the crease and only let them see part of the crease. Even though you're still a great tech, probably an experienced tech, you want to naturally go ahead too far. You want to just do a full pass. And what happens when you do that is that you get impatient. And the worst thing that you do is you create zipper marks, zipper effect, because you're not touching your pushes. And that's all because of discipline. So if you go slow, touch your pushes. So basically when you push, you've actually got to overlap your last push. So you don't get that low and that high spot in between. And that's what we call the zipper effect.
Okay, let me break this down a little bit further. So I divide it into dull creases and sharp creases.
Yep.
So do you use that same technique for both?
And on soft creases, I don't have to use it as much. Okay. I will use a soft tip to kind of push most of it out. I'm referring to sharp creases because that's what most people have a hard time on. So
yeah. All right.
There's a technique that I've been using a lot more is that I will take a, obviously I use a pick, to finish out sharp creases. But have you ever turned the pick around and used the butt of the pick, to push?
Yeah, the heel.
Yes. But I know a lot of people use, Mike's going to say you push with that. No, I am actually going to tell you to drag that tool across the crease. You will get a smooth push with no zipper effect as long as you are maintaining control and staying on where the crease goes. So And that's another thing. What I like to do is I like to, again, keep that discipline, only go do a certain part. But if you use the round heel of a pick, and I'm speaking more of the ultra picks, you could use a finesse pick, but it's got to be really nice and polished and smooth. And
Right.
that's what makes sense about Stanliner's tools too, is because now he's always had, apparently, the round part of his tool, the side of his tool, the tip of his tool. You can actually recreate that kind of technique using those tools. So I'm actually experimenting with it right now. I see what he's really trying to push, but it's hard to actually replicate what he's doing on a crease because he has no visual techniques, no visual tutorials showing people how to use his tools. So I'm trying to experiment with that tool. So
Yeah.
using creases right now too.
Yeah. And we were at MTE this year and he was explaining that stuff, but it was just a verbal explanation of it.
Yeah. I mean, you were there personally, so I didn't see what he was explaining, but I do see what the tool he showed me. And actually Steve made this tool, and I have to say it's a perfection tool. I mean, it just looks so pretty. Okay. But
Ultra.
I'm going
Steve
to,
from Ultra.
I'm going to tell you, the tool looks fantastic. Okay. And the build quality on it, the polish, all the way down to the polishing is just supreme. Okay. But
So you're saying Steve nailed it at Ultra.
yeah, I mean, people think that, oh, Steve's my buddy and Steve's yada yada. He is. He's a friend of mine. But look, you guys know, if the tool's not good, I'm not going to say nothing much about it. But I'm telling you that Steve makes terrific tools. Okay, so
And honestly, he's stepped up his game in the last couple of years and raised the bar for himself, which honestly, some of his new shave tools are so friggin' thin and so strong. And if you haven't experienced his new tools, you're doing yourself a disfavor.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we could talk about some of his latest tools too, but it would be off subject. So,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying Steve's the only one who's making great tools. No, it's not. I mean, actually, Dent Gear I like the new moose knuckle that they came out with. It's really stout. It's good. It works great. Yeah. I'm just saying, Steve's tools are the prettiest to me. I mean, just the finishing. So, but anyways, going back to the creases, there's so many different techniques, but I think what it comes down to, if you guys really want to really perfect the crease, take your time. Don't try to do a full pass, because when you do that, I think you accidentally, and you're not meaning to, but you rush through it and your pushes aren't as clean as they should be. And that's something to think about.
Now, Vince, do you take that same approach?
I do not. No, the way I was trained was to zipper it up. Start at one end and zipper it up, zigzag all the way through, and bring it up one layer, and then bring it up another layer, knock down the sides and the crowns and everything, and then come back and close it up. However many passes you need to make. But that technique has changed throughout the years as well, because the metal is different now. The galvanized steel reacts differently. You're dealing with high strength steel and different types of steel, different types of cars. And one of the things that I do more often than not with creases nowadays is a nylon tip. And when I'm using a nylon tip, it's usually a broad tip, and I rake it across the crease and get a couple layers out.
You're dragging it.
I'm dragging it.
Yeah.
Getting it on there, making sure it's completely stable. There's no wobble to the tool, whether I'm using a flat bar or if I'm using a rod that has a nylon tip on it, and I have full control. Another tool that I use a lot on bigger creases, on open access on fenders, is the doodah. I'll put a nylon tip on that, or I'll use some of the balls that John Hiley sells with his tactical hammers, which is the black round one. I'll also use the red clown nose one on creases, and I'll actually hold it right next to the crease. I'll hold it right there and drag it across using constant pressure and taking out so many layers so quickly.
I agree. There would be no way I would have been able to take out that crease on that fender, that Harley fender. So I did the same thing with the clown nose. So
right. And the clown nose acts very similar to the nylon tips. However, a nylon tip is going to be a little bit more forgiving than the clown nose.
Now you're talking that nylon tip. It's about the size of your pinky, right? It's about the tip of it.
From Ultra, the nylon tips from Ultra.
Well, the one I use specifically is an old Dent Wizard rod, which you guys can't get. But the other one closest to it is a tool made by the Frenchy guys. What's the name of that company? Excel. They have nylon tips that are very similar to the old Dent Wizard tools.
There is a tip though that I have that I can't find where I got it. It's a tip that exactly like what you're saying, Vince. So, right. And I use it a lot for motorcycle tanks, creases on motorcycle tanks that you can't get anything else on because it'll destroy the tank if you try to use something else.
Woody's new tips are kind of like that.
Yeah, the what do they call that? That's kind of
those yellow ones.
Yeah. Match grade.
You know
what? It match grade.
You know what works good with those is they it looks like the R4. Okay?
Yeah.
When you take that red cap off and you got a nasty crease that you need some good pushes, but you don't want to mar it up, that tip works really, really good.
But see, Mike, that's going back to what you just talked about using the heel of your tool and having it polished and nice and smooth. Mm-hmm. Because those match grade tips or a nylon tip, it's going to glide across the back of that panel, and it's not going to grab and make a nasty high spot or crack the paint or anything like that. You know, and that's what I like about the nylon tips or even the clown nose, where when you're raking it across there, there's room for error. You know, if something happens, you're not going to make a nasty high spot that you can't knock down.
Well, it's a good dolly technique too. I mean, it's a dolly without having the hammer on top of it, so you can actually slide it across. So
and some, you know, it's all about your fulcrum point. You know, it's where you're located, where the crease is located, front fender, door, or whatever, and where your fulcrum point is and how much control you have in dragging that tool. And this is a technique that really, I think, is going to grow in the next couple of years. You're going to hear a lot more about dragging technique and dragging tools from Steinleiner, from you're going to see different tips out there. This is going to be a big growth spurt, I think, in our industry.
Yeah,
I agree.
And myself and Dave Pinto, we used to talk about it back in the day on doording.com a lot. You know, this isn't anything new, but I think with the advent of the Stanliner tools, we're going to be hearing about it a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just a growth area, you know?
Sure.
I think it's going to be an area more tool companies are going to focus on and the type of tools. I mean, have you ever looked at a fender roller and how they roll the inside of a fender? Have you ever seen that tool from Eastwood?
Yeah.
You take the wheel off, you mount it to the hub, and it rotates with the arc of the fender. And you roll the inside of the fender so the tire doesn't rub on the inside of the fender.
Right.
And I see that kind of technique as some kind of tool that lets you cover that arc. So when you're working on that body line and you've got a dent that's just crushed that body line and you've got to recreate that body line, that's the perfect way to do it, is having a tool that will cover that arc and recreate that.
You know who we should have on, Mike, is one of your old students, Shane Rosas.
Dude, yeah, he's
like the master fender roller, and I bet you he uses that tool too to roll out.
He does. He actually did my rear fenders on quarter panel fenders that using that tool. So He's quite good at it. That's how he made his living, and that's what paid for his PDR training. So,
well, Paul Corden actually has a prototype tool like that.
yeah, he's actually had that tool for a while. I think he was going to send it to me last year, but I never heard anything more about it.
Yeah, it's over at A1. He's working with A1 to try and have it cost effective enough to have it manufactured.
So that could be the next big thing. So we'll have to keep our ears out for that.
And it's neat because what do you guys think? I think we're do you think this is the golden age right now for dent tools?
No, I think.
How do you mean?
What do you mean, like golden age?
Are we we're like plateauing? Like right now is just awesome time for dent tools, or do you think we're just getting into it? Are we going up?
No, I think we're getting into it.
Are we on the downslope?
No, you know what? But I will say this, Vince. I think what I've learned in the last 2 years has made a huge leap in the quality of my work.
Yeah.
I mean, the tools that are out there, I mean, we're very fortunate, the four of us, because we get all the latest and greatest tools. We get the prototypes. We get to experiment with stuff, and we're all in that mindset of doing that. And it expands our horizons, and it's a huge advantage. I think about the guys that used to work for me, and I know I would blow them out of the wire if they came back and work for me to see what I'm doing now.
Well, my quality's always been there.
Go ahead.
So I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
My speed, though.
I do have to say though, there's some people in the dark, and it's like they've been, encased in ice for a long time, and then all of a sudden, wow, I didn't even know there was a soft tip that could do that. Didn't the soft tip at the time change the way you pushed a dent?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I mean, think about that. If you want to think about I've been pushing dents for years. Okay, well, think about when you first used that soft tip, or you've used a nylon tip, or you used a glue puller system.
A new peak tip.
Yeah, a new peak tip. Or hey, the new Gain Green tabs that came out. I mean, now you can pull creases, you can pull dents that you didn't think that you can pull. That's the point. So if your competition's got a little step ahead of you, I can't do that dent. Someone comes behind you, I can do it because he's got the tools. He's staying up to date. He's educating himself on every aspect of PDR he can. Well, if you lose a job because of that, or said you couldn't do it,
what that's called? It's commitment to CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. If you're not constant, never-ending improvement in your business, you're dying on the vine.
Yeah.
Sorry,
dude. Yeah. I try to improve myself in every way I can, dude.
It keeps you interested. It keeps you alive.
That's right.
I get these referrals, guys, from my local competition here. He doesn't glue pull, and I get all his roofs, and I text him every time he sends me one to thank him for it. However, a few times I texted him and said, dude, get your butt down to my shop and let me teach you how to glue pull. And he has no desire at all to learn how to glue pull and how to fix a dent on a roof. And it's amazing to me because if he doesn't have glue pulling in his arsenal, he's making his job so much harder than it has to be.
I kind of get it though, Vince, because I hate glue pulling on the road, to be honest with you. I love being in my shop and I have all the glue pulling tools right there and ready available. Yeah. But pulling it out and being in a foreign environment, it sucks.
But that's your job though. If you're a mobile guy,
right. You're right.
That's your job, dude. You chose to be out on the road, or you got to be prepared, there goes that black belt thing I was talking about, right? MMD, mixed martial dents. You got to be good at everything. Okay. Yeah. And a black belt. So
let's move on to body lines. Now you're talking creases with body lines or through body lines?
Well, yeah, there's that, but no, let's talk about a body line where mainly front fenders are your main culprit, and they're the easiest ones to do. But you gotta you always have that front body line on a front fender that can be wiped out, crushed, and
You guys be quiet.
that metal wants to go back to that position. And what's your technique for that? For me, I like to start with the vinyl cap. So I use ultra vinyl caps, the
hard ones, right?
the hard ones.
Uh-huh.
Those are my favorite tips to use. That's what I usually always start with. But if I have a body line that I'm recreating, I don't wrap it with tape. So I take the tape off.
Yeah,
and
because
I use
it's
the vinyl, because the vinyl is going to be a little bit slicker. It's going to move for me. And that new moose knuckle is a perfect fulcrum to keep that rotation and that arc that you need. So it gives you a steady platform. So guys, that moose knuckle is badass. Go to where do we get that from?
Dent gear.
Dent gear. Thank you. And order one of those. So it allows you to drag your tool in an arc and recreate that. And that's what I do for a byline. I try to get it. If you got a good position, you don't always have a good position to do that, though.
No, you don't. And since you're talking on fenders, I'm going to go to the door because I'm taking a dent out of a Prius on the those hard body lines, those ones. Well, first of all, use heat. Okay, tap down the crowns if there's a lot. Obviously, there usually are on those body lines. I will do exactly the same thing as you. I will concur with you, Daniel, that I will use a plastic hard cap from Ultra. However, I'm always scared that I'll snail trail with the plastic going on the metal. So I'll just put 1 or 2 pieces of gaffer's tape just to give it a little bit of grip, and I will push. Okay. And I'll work it down. If it's blocked, I will glue pull the crease and at least get a lot of the meat out until I can get a less sharper tool on there. Actually, it doesn't matter when it's up on a brace. You only have a choice but to get a little thin tool on there, and you can really chew it up. So I like to use some gangrene skinny tabs to really pull it, and then knock down the crowns, make it real soft, and then start getting a hook.
That's you bring up a good point. So there is always that fine line of knowing what tool to use. Getting the meat out is so important. That's the first thing I do with any dent, any approach. It's always getting the meat out so you can shrink that down to the size of where it's manageable before you start using some of the techniques that we're talking about.
Yeah. You have to. I mean, that's I'm actually using glue probably about 50-60% of my repairs now, because I just feel like it does do what it's supposed to do. You got to get the meat out, get it started. And the less you actually put a tool on a dent, the cleaner it's going to be. That's just my opinion.
Absolutely.
Okay. The less you can tool the dent and without forcing it, the cleaner it's going to be. But that's just,
it also brings structure back to the dent. Yeah. So the metal moves better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, with those body lines, I'm the same way, guys. My first tool I grab, whether it's a door or a fender, is usually the double bend interchangeable tip Ultra tool. And I put a nylon tip on there, like you guys are talking. Sometimes I use the rubber chair rail tip first if it's a wider dent through the body line. But we used to call it rainbowing out. So my first pushes are always right on that body line, and I am meeting it up as fast and hard as I could get it without fracturing the paint. And of course, it's a feel thing, and we've all been doing this many years, so we know when to stop. And it's immediately knock down the crowns, because now you've just raised that crown even higher along the body line on the top and bottom. So to relieve that pressure, you have to knock down those crowns and get that metal back flowing back into the body line, so you could start bringing up the rest and finishing off that dent. And like you guys are saying, that is the quickest way. When one of us gets a body line dent on like a BMW door, I'm assuming we're really quick at it compared to new guys that are at it, because we get in there, we get right on that dent in the body line, and we muscle that sucker up, and then come back and start knocking down crowns. And right then and there, you got like 60 to 80% of the dent out.
Now you got to explain why I know understand why you're doing it, but Vince, but you're actually taking the pressure off of the crowns by attacking that body line, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
absolutely. Getting that body line up and getting those crowns flowing back, knowing the direction that they're going to.
Now, do you always do that approach? Is that always your first approach, or is it really
always my approach?
What about if it's got a really bad sharp crown? Do you
I won't knock it down. No, because what happens is you get that low above the crown or below the crown, on the back side of it. And now you're going to have to go back and fix that. Where
I've seen you do a nasty body line on a fender, and
last time I was at your shop.
Yeah, you are actually practicing what you preach. So yeah.
And when you say that, it comes down to really, it's instincts. It's not something you think about. It's like, when it's time to knock down the crown and when it's not time to knock down that crown.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, it's called the characteristics of a dent. You understand what the characteristics of a dent is. It's like that's why you have different techniques with the creases, the body lines.
Because sometimes you want to bring out that meat a little bit, then go to knock down the crown. Sometimes you want to knock down that crown a little bit, then go to the meat.
Yeah,
the dent.
Well, I think
and that's hard. That's hard to teach.
Yeah,
it's something that you just
experience.
You know what that metal needs.
Yeah,
sure.
Okay.
Now, Mike, or Daniel, you're up first.
Yeah,
glue pulling creases. That's one thing that I've struggled with up until lately. It gets me so frustrated that I tend to just go back to tooling it rather than trying to
yeah, that goes back to instincts again. And when you know that glue pull is going to work on that panel, depending on where it's located, the tension of that dent, and what you have available to you for creases. So some of the Dent Gear pink eye bar is some of the greatest crease pulling tabs that you can find. And
are you talking like that? Oh, like it looks like a T, kind of like that. So like
it looks like an I-beam.
Okay, yeah.
It looks like glue tracks from Anson.
Yeah, you got to let it set up a little bit too, right?
Yeah, it's thick plastic, so it takes longer for it to dry. So you have to give it more patience when you put it on there. But it has that crease, and now what's the tabs from Germany?
Laka.
Laka came out with some new crease tabs that we got at Anson when we were there.
I've had so much good luck with those Laka tabs.
The Laka tabs are badass. They're badass. So they have some new crease tabs. They're kind of like the old, were the original tabs. Worth. They're like that, but they use a different plastic, and they have them in crease tab shapes.
Well, that's what we used to do. We used to take our Worth oval tabs and cut them down. Yeah. They're basically like that. So if you guys don't have Laka tabs, get some. Anson has them on their website. Buy them. They're expensive, but they're worth it. And every penny.
Yeah. And they will pull up a very sharp crease and clean and nice if all the conditions are right.
Yeah. I want to admit that back in the day, I glue pulled completely wrong, and I would never glue pull. And I have a couple of videos on YouTube that I'm showing them glue pulling. The dent came out great, but I had to do so much cleanup work at the end. So my technique on how I glue pull crease, if you guys are interested.
Yes, please.
Right. First of all, start where the crease is actually ended. Okay, so one side, you got to overlap your crease tab on that crease. You don't start where it starts getting low and butt it up where it just starts getting low. That's rule number one. Number two, do not, and I'll explain why all these steps, why. Number two, do not butt your crease tabs up to each other. Don't do that.
Okay.
Okay. And now I'm going to go back why. Number one is because you want, the reason why, the first reason is that you don't want to miss the crease that you are trying to get out. So you overlap it a little bit. Let it go over like a 1/4 inch over the lowest part of the crease. And then lay it down. Pull it, tap it down if you need, if it's necessary, but keep going. Again, the same rule applies for glue pulling as it does for pushing. Do not keep trying to go further to the right or to the left, whatever which way direction you're working the crease. And then let's say you get that part out, the first 2 or 3 inches. Again, overlap and continue with that one crease tab. Now, the great crease tabs that I like to work with are those Gain Greens, those skinny ones. They friggin' pull.
Yeah, love them.
Yeah,
monsters.
I'm there with you.
So
Now those, to me, those are a little bit where the crease is a little bit softer, not quite as sharp.
yeah, I've had really good luck on sharp and soft. So they work good. Now I don't let the tabs set up that long either, but I'm in a controlled environment. So I'm setting up about 5-10 seconds and I'm snapping with the mini lifter. So
Let me ask you this, Mike.
Yeah.
The panel, is it a rigid panel or a soft panel? Say you're on like a concave portion of like a Lexus rear door, you know, and you're below the brace, but you're above the molding. You know, you push on it. There's some flex to that panel.
Uh-huh.
Are you glue pulling on that?
Well, it depends on how deep it is. Depends how light and shallow. I mean, but it also depends if I'm going to use a mini lifter or if I'm using a slide hammer. So,
because that's where I run into problems when I'm on a floppy panel, panel that has a little flex to it. I've had not very little, but I've had less luck on a panel that is not rigid. Where if that same crease is on a quarter panel, you know, high up on a soft body line of a roll, glue pull the crap out of that. It comes out clean.
I think it makes a difference.
Hard snaps.
What are you using? Which apparatus are you using to pull it?
Well, now I finally broke down and bought a Keko mini lifter.
Okay. Yeah, because I would have used a mini lifter all day long on that, because what it does is it's going to pin down that metal in that area. Yeah. And so you get more pull.
Do you know the little trick to that Keith shared and another guy shared online lately? So on those Keko mini lifters, so you know how it has a half moon shape?
Yeah, like a horseshoe.
You turn it inside out.
Okay.
So that it's arcing into the dent.
Right. The half moon is towards the dent rather than the cutout part.
Right. And it'll pull, like if you've got a really sharp dent, you turn the feet like that and it'll pull the center of a really sharp dent, but it also works on a crease.
Okay, I'm not following you. I'm not visually following you.
So
it looks like a kidney bean, right? The feet.
Yeah.
And you turn it, 90 degrees, I guess?
The feet. You're just
180.
You
flip it 180.
180.
You're talking just the feet?
Yes,
yeah, you turn the feet 180
on the robo lifter.
On the robo lifter.
Okay.
So the feet are arcing in instead of out or bowing. It's hard to
kind of like goofy footed.
Yeah, you just turn them.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'll find that they work. It pulls the center of whatever you're trying to lift much better.
I'll have to try that. I'm going
to try that too. And the other thing with that is now, Dent Technologies has a new carbon fiber thing that kind of also,
which I just got today.
Yeah, so I'm looking.
And I'm going to be sending
those to you.
Yeah, I'm going to be sending you guys out those, so you guys will.
Because that theory totally makes sense as well.
Yeah, and it's the same principle.
Yeah.
So basically, what we're talking about, guys, out there it's a little carbon fiber card that has little cutouts, and it just it centralizes the pull of that glue pull.
So yeah, it keeps the rest of the metal stable as you're pulling. Okay, got it. Yeah,
exactly.
Like that'd be perfect for what Vince is just mentioning, the floppy kind of metal.
Sure.
Yeah.
And what I like about the ones that Dent Technologies has come out with, it's not just fitted for a round tab. He also made a crease tab area for it as well.
Yeah,
There's a longer,
it has
elongated
a crease, a small hole, and a big hole.
Yeah. Okay.
Which one do you like, Daniel?
Right here.
Do you like the small hole or the big hole?
I have it right here in front of you. Here.
That
You
looks
like the big
interesting.
hole, Daniel?
That looks interesting.
It's actually really, really stiff. I mean,
Have you tried it?
I haven't. I honestly got it today, Mike.
Yeah.
Is there sharp edges on it that would scratch a panel?
Yeah, there are.
How about on the inside of the ovals?
Some gappers on that.
No, but
Take it to the bench grinder. To the bench grinder.
to the bench grinder we go. No. But
And
so yeah,
and a Craftsman hammer to it.
yeah, you guys will be getting one of these, so we can report on this later, see what we think.
All right.
Fantastic.
All right. The next topic, Vince.
Yeah. Well, moving right along, Mike, why don't you give us your opinion, Mike, about aluminum versus steel
Okay.
when with creases?
With creases. You know what? My honest opinion, let's just first of all, I think to me, because I think I understand it so much more than I did back in the early days with aluminum and the experience. I think aluminum is not as hard as it is
Used to be.
Yeah, I wouldn't say used to be. It's just as people make it to be. I think it's just like anything else. The more you understand it, the better it is. I think if you whatever we tell you to do on a sheet metal, it's opposite for aluminum. That's just the way it is. I mean, you're gonna definitely use heat. It definitely helps. But sharp tools are friggin' amazing on aluminum. They just work great. Okay?
In some ways, it's more forgiving, right?
It is. It is. Yeah, you're right. I would agree.
The paint doesn't crack as easy.
No.
I got to be honest with you. I think aluminum now to me is more of a selling technique of getting more money.
Yeah.
I could say, oh yeah, it's aluminum. I got to charge you more for that. But in all reality, it's probably easier to fix.
Yeah.
Right?
I
Right?
agree.
With
I
the-
agree.
With the new tools, and my technique is I go straight to a sharp tip. I just worked on a tailgate today, really sharp crease in it, and I went straight to a sharp tip and worked the whole thing out with a sharp tip.
I like it because you can see your pushes so nicely. You know, you can see the pushes very nicely, and like you said, Daniel, it's very forgiving. The paint is, at least.
Yeah.
Now you can still screw it up. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you can screw it up, but
Well, the paint will crinkle. It'll do that crinkle thing like you see on engine blocks and valve
paint.
Yeah, it'll look crinkly like thing.
But it colors hands just right out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Vince's area right
But
there.
honestly, aluminum does work better at 180 degrees.
That's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for the Daniel, the signature.
That's the sweet
thing.
spot.
The sweet spot is, say it again, Daniel, so they hear it.
180 degrees.
Yes.
I agree, Daniel. It just makes life so much easier when you've got the right temperature, the right tool on it. Once you understand aluminum, I'm telling you, I think Vince is right. It's a selling point because it's just like, ooh, that's aluminum, and I heard aluminum's like it's harder. Oh yeah, it's like it doesn't have memory. It lost its memory. I'm working with what do you call it? Alzheimer's panel right here.
But
man.
are you seeing a difference in the Ford? What is it? Army grade or military grade?
It still sucks.
It's
Ford trucks still suck.
It does suck. It does, but it's mainly because of the braces. I wouldn't say it's really the aluminum. It's the It's the getting to it. You know,
The aluminum is different though on Ford trucks.
It is.
like it is in stereo.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially those damn hoods, man. Those hoods suck. So I have to say that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I think we've given a lot of tech tips, but are we ready to move on to tech tips, gentlemen?
I think we already said a bunch of tech tips in here.
We
right?
did. This whole
Right?
episode has been tech tips.
This was a
with
tech
Creases.
tip bomb right here. So
Good, because I didn't plan any, as usual.
I thought this was going to be all our full of tech tips. I have some, but I don't think I'm going to let any more out right now. So
Yeah.
I've got one simple one.
you know, Daniel's got like he
Of
can't
course.
wait, dude. He's got a book full of them.
Yeah.
I do. Only because I used it today. So today it was bring your son to work day. So I have my son all week. So I'm teaching him dents this week.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
And it's great because he's finally reached that maturity, that age that he's like kind of eager.
Are you going to make him a partner?
Who knows? I don't want, honestly,
inside joke.
yeah. I want him to do other things and pursue other things.
Sure.
But I do have in the back of my mind, I'm like, hey, if you're going to go off to college and you got to work, you might as
do
well
it.
push dents, right?
Don't do it. No.
I know, right?
He's going to drop out.
I know.
Push dents
Damn.
full time.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm afraid of. So I've got them in here for the week. I'm teaching them, and
Have him detail cars. That sucks.
yeah, it does. I didn't have him wash my truck today, so he's working on the dent, and I'm like, okay, you can use the heel or you can use the tip. And I grabbed the tool, I grabbed a Sharpie, and I marked the side where the tip was, so that it was easy for him to look at the tool and orient the tool to know what side the tip is pointing up. Because we all do that. We all pull a tool out and we're like, okay, which way is up, and taking a simple Sharpie and marking it. In the old days, you know what I used to do? I used to take my engraver and I used to engrave the edge where the tool meets the rubber, and I would engrave it so I could feel it with my thumb.
That's a great tech tip.
Right. And I would feel with my thumb. I knew which end is pointing up, what end is the tip. And so there's my tech tip.
I really need to do that too, Daniel, because even today I was working on a Prius today, and back and forth, at least 3 or 4 times. Every time I had to pull the tool out just enough to see which way was forward.
Right. It's annoying.
The door, and it just flips around. Or
You know what would be great? It would be great if the guys, when they're dipping the handles, when they're making the damn tools, they would put a different color right there.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
Take 2 seconds to do. Tell Steve that they're
Well, with his
Like-
picks, that he actually has his what do you call it, laser engraved where the tip faces. So that's what I use for the tips.
His
Okay.
picks.
that's good. That's good to know. All
but-
right.
Yeah.
But
So
anyway,
there we go, guys. There's your tech tip.
hey man,
Wonderful.
this was a great little episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the full tech tips and the techniques on this latest tools. I'm sure you guys have your own, but these are ours. These are what I thought we would share these with you guys. But
Yeah, if you had anything to add, post it on PDR Tool Time Revolution.
And we really love the fact that you guys are listening to us and giving us props and everything, privately, publicly, and everything. Make sure you tune into that last episode to some knowledge on insurance adjusters and how to deal with them. And this episode was number 75.
75, man. I feel like Disneyland. It's like 75th anniversary. What are we gonna do?
I don't know.
I'm going to Disneyland.
Go
Yeah.
to Disney.
All right, guys. Hey, listen. I'm Mike Toledo along with Daniel Grom, Vince D'Alessandro. We are out.
And guys, don't remember to level up your tools.
And join the revolution.
See you later, guys. Have a good one.